All right. So last week we got started on implementing assignment 2, which was mostly a static website. Let's visit it. It's here, right? Local host, and it's assignment undergrad, and this is the index page. Then we can go into the login page and navigate, and then go into whatever username and password. We log in and navigates to the list of websites. Correct, right? And we showed how to create edit a particular website and or navigate to the list of pages, and then from the list of pages navigate to the widgets, right? And I believe that's as far as we got, right? And you were tasked on completing the rest of the websites using some of the code that we had given you, right? So as I mentioned at the beginning, that these are mostly just static content. We want to make this dynamic, right? So to do that, we're going to use the Angular library, which allows us to create applications using the model view controller design pattern, right? All right, so let's revisit that. If we go to the assignment currently, we see that our pages are being implemented right here, right? We have we organized it to have all the HTML that's dealt with page entities under the page directory. We put all the pages that had to do with the user under the user directory, and all the widgets or websites under their respective directories. Yes, right. So we're going to change this just a bit, right? These are not going to be the only types of artifacts that we're going to be building, not just HTML pages, right? We're definitely going to now add JavaScript to this, right, as various artifacts for this. So this is going to get at least twice as big as we had last week. So to deal with the complexity, we're going to start organizing this into another hierarchy. Right? We're going to add one more directory on top of this, and we're going to drag all of these into views. Right? I'm going to put it into the views. Okay. Now this is going to search references. I don't really care for the references because none of those references are going to be meaningful to us. So do not search for that. So now our website is entirely broken. Okay, so no longer works. That's good. And also we said that we're going to add some additional organizational directories here to distinguish between the things that are meant for rendering and for consumption by a human being, and we're going to put them inside of templates. The name template, sometimes we use view, but template is a more common name for a folder. But it's meant to capture the fact that these are not meant for they're not standalone HTML files, right? Right now they are, right? But instead they're supposed to be little snippets, right? Or partials, sometimes referred to as partials. That are meant to be loaded and then paint parts of the entire page. Yes. Okay. Let's see what else. We're also going to later add controllers a little later in a few minutes. Also, we said that we're going to rename some of these things to capture the fact that these are to help us understand where does this artifact. Who's the responsibility of this artifact, right? Is it the browser? Is it the server? Is it a database artifact? What is it? Okay, so it's certainly a client-side artifact. Okay, and also it's meant for consumption by a human being, right? So we're going to follow this naming convention. This is the what is its role. Right, and this is the where is this running? Right, it's running on the browser, right, client. And let's do that one for now. Let's just do that one for now. Okay. All right. So let's see. And so what we want to be able to do is when we get to this login page that I moved it around, it's no longer where we thought it was. Let's see, where is it now? That login page is under View, User, Templates, and then login dot view dot client dot html. Almost. Actually, no, that is it, right? But the style is broken because I moved it around, right? And the CSS is referring to a different location. So let me open that up. So this is no longer the right place. So I probably moved it down quite a few levels down. Let's see, is that looks right? Is that the right place? Yep. Okay. What about Bootstrap? Also, let's put it a couple steps above. There it is. If I click on it, that's correct. All right, so we're in the right place. We load. Okay, we have our page HTML. Okay. All right. So let's start looking at how is that we're going to listen for incoming requests here, right? We want to be able to type something, and we want somebody to do something with this data when we submit it. All right. So let's do that. All right. So let's go back to our login page. And we would like to be able to do is add some logic that can take that information. Remember always to add nice white spaces, right? So that lines are not so long that they're hard to read. Okay. All right. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to load the Angular library, so to be able to handle human interaction, right? And let's see, do we have the Angular library? I forget if we loaded it somewhere. Do we put it under vendor maybe? No. Did we put it maybe under assignment? We didn't. Okay, so let's install the Angular framework. Did we install it here? Angular. It doesn't look like we installed it. Okay, so we can go to the terminal and we can say npm install Angular. Right. Let's see if we installed it here. Angular. There it is, Angular min. So let's grab that. That's all really we need. I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to put it under vendor up here. I could have put it under assignment, but I'm going to put it under vendor so that it's available everywhere, right? So we just have to remember that we have this one place where we're putting all our libraries. So let's put it here. I'll put a directory here just to give it some context. So this is all our Angular libraries, and I'm going to paste it in there. Everybody okay? Right. So let's load our Angular application. So let's load it. Let's see. Right here, we're going to say script. I'm going to go fetch that library that I just loaded. Yes, that I just downloaded. So let's see. It's going to go up 3 times, and then down to vendor, down to Angular. Angular? No, maybe I'm in the wrong place. I'll go up one further, maybe. No, one more. Vendor, and then Angular. There it is. Angular. There it is. Okay. Okay, so now we have loaded our Angular library, and our Angular library what it's going to do is going to parse the page, right? It's going to see where am I, right? It wakes up and it parses the entire page, and it is now aware of all the elements in the page, right? It's aware of the entire page. Okay, very much what the browser does. The browser, when it gets it from the server, it parses it and it creates a DOM. A DOM model, right? A document object model. So does Angular. Angular is now aware of the document. Let's create our very first Angular application, and the way we do that is by using ng-app. So ng-app is one of several new attributes that we're going to be using throughout the semester. This one in particular allows us to declare or refer to an application. Right, that can then be configured in a separate JavaScript file. And so we'll say that this is ng-app, and we'll say what do we want to call it? Web application maker. There it is. Wham. All right. Notice where I'm declaring it. I'm declaring it at the top HTML. that means that the context of this application is this entire HTML document. Yes, right? I could have lowered it and also declare it here at the body, right? Since maybe I don't need to control the head. Over here, I'm declaring only on the body, so the context would be this body element. So I can manipulate and be cognizant of whatever is inside of the body of my HTML document. Either one works. If we reload this and try to load the login page, nothing will happen except that if we inspect it, it's going to complain, right, and says that you are referring to an Angular module that is called WAM, but I can't find it. I can't find its definition. Right, so where is it? I can't find it. Notice that it generates this, the error message generates this URL. If you click on it, it navigates you to their Angular website that formats the error with a little bit more context and some meaningful error messages, such as fail to instantiate module WAM. So I can't find it. So that gives you an idea that it's missing the WAM module. So you can say, yeah, I forgot to declare it. Right? So let's declare it. We're going to declare it in a separate script, typically on the same directory where we're implementing our application. Right? So let's create it under app.js. And so let's see, where is our login? It's under assignments, undergraduates, and it's somewhere under view. Actually, this should be views, not view. So let's change that, views. Okay, and so this should be views. Okay. All right. So now it's complaining that I can't find app.js. I can't find app.js. So let's create app.js. Right now, our context is that we're only working on the login page, right? And I'm looking for app.js right in the same directory. So just because we're working just with that one login page, we're going to broaden the context in a minute, right? But right now, we're just focusing on that one login page. Yes? Okay. So let's do that. So there's our JavaScript app.js. And in here, we're loading it from the login page. See that? We're referring to that app.js on the same directory that we're in. And let's so here what we're going to do is we're going to again put everything in an iffy. The very first thing is you declare an iffy, and then all your code goes in here. You only need to do this on the client side. You don't need to do this on the server side. This is just only because we're competing in the namespace, right? On the same namespace for many other libraries, right? Angular, jQuery, Bootstrap, and many other libraries that we're going to be using throughout the semester. So we don't want to litter. We don't want to step on each other's toes, right? So this is a good practice. All right. So in our code, we're going to load the. We're going to use the local Angular object. The Angular, this Angular over here declares a single object, right? The Angular object at the global space, namespace, and there it is. We can use it from anywhere we want. And we're going to declare that module that we're looking for. It's the app module called WAM, right? WAM, we declare it. So what this is doing is it's reading a module called WAM, which doesn't exist yet, if you use a single argument with the module function here. Right? If you use a second argument, it's interpreted as a creation. Right? It's a very common syntax in JavaScript to use the same exact function, right? And it's interpreted in different ways depending on how many arguments you pass it. Right? One argument typically means you are getting or you're reading. It's a read operation. If you give it two or more arguments, it's typically interpreted as a write or a set operation. Okay? Here we don't really need that second argument, but I'm only providing it so that it understands that this is a set. Right? It's a write, not a read operation. Later on, we'll use it for many other things, but right now, later on, we'll use it for declaring dependencies. You can create many different modules that depend on each other, and this is where you would list all those dependencies. Right now, we just have that one top-level module. Everybody okay? If we load it, notice that we don't have errors anymore, and indeed, we have our very first Angular, well, I guess it's our second one. Application, very simple Angular application, doesn't really do much. All right, so let's see what we can do with these login over here. What we want to be able to do is to listen for the username and password as we click on login, right? So let's first see if we can invoke this login button on our application. To do that, we're going to use a controller for that one HTML document, right? So there will be a controller for this that's going to be listening for these clicks, right? So to do that, we're going to declare a brand new controller, right? We're going to put it under controllers, and it'll be a brand new file in there. Last week we toyed around with doing it right here in the app.js, right? This is what we did last week, right? We did it right here. We did dot controller, right? And in that dot controller, we declare our brand new controller, right? So this would be maybe login controller implemented in a function of the same name, but preferably this would be in a separate file. Okay, let's do it this way for now, right? And then I can show you how to move it to its own file. So there is login controller, and from the login templates, I can refer to it, right? I can refer to it by saying, hey, this is this whole HTML here is the controller responsible for this snippet of HTML is that controller over there. Controller login controller. There it is. Okay, everything in its own line, right? And here we can just to make sure that yes.
Is there a reason you didn't declare the controller in the body instead of the div?
Where did I put it? In the div, right?
Yeah,
instead of the body. So you should always try and use the narrowest context that is convenient for you. Again, right, to avoid global variables, global scopes, right. So you want to try as much as you can to minimize the scope of your code. Right. It's just a good practice. Right. So in here we're just going to do a console log to see if it's even loading. Okay, login controller. And if we refresh that, there it is. So it is loading, right? And we can see that it is hitting that console log, right? So it's loading that controller. But as I mentioned earlier, it is not a good practice to put it is good practice to put controllers and services and code in its own dedicated source code, right? So let's do that. Instead of declaring it like this, right? We're going to actually this is very convenient. I'm just going to copy this app.js. I'm going to move it over onto the controls directory. Right, I'm going to rename it. This will be login controller.client. Right, again, following the naming convention, the controller telling us what the role of this artifact is. It's a controller, so that immediately tells us, this is the one that handles events that come from the user. And it's fetching some data and then providing some data to the view. Right? Again, Angular forces you to think in a model view controller design pattern. Right? All right, so I pasted in there. Let's see what we have there. So in this case now, we're almost done. Only that we don't want to redeclare our WAM. We don't want to redeclare it. By the time we get here, hopefully, this module already exists, all right, and we're only getting a hold of it. We're only reading it. We are retrieving it so that we can declare a controller on it. Yes, all right. Coming back here to the original, we remove the controller from here, right? Instead, it lives in that other file. Yes, everybody okay? All right. Since we moved it, notice that now it's going to complain, saying again, I don't know where that controller is. Right? Where is that controller? It's complaining. It found notice that it found the module, but it can't find the controller. I don't see the controller anywhere. Right? because we moved it from that file. We moved it into its own dedicated file. All right. So let's fix that. Let's go back to our HTML, and not only do we need to load where our module is declared, but we also need to load that one controller. All right, so that's source, and we're going to go up one and down to controllers and down to the login controller. Everybody okay? All right. All right. So let's see. Let's refresh, see if the error goes away. Okay, so everything's good, and notice that it's printing out a login controller. All right. Okay. Let's keep going. So what do we want to do? We want to be able to, when we click on the login button, we want to notify the controller saying, "Hey, somebody clicked on the login controller, login button. Here's a username. Here's a password. Verify them." Okay. So let's do that. To do that, we're going to use yet another attribute declared by the Angular framework, the ng-click. These attributes, they will become known as directives a little later, and we'll see how to create our own. Right? So just like Angular can create its own, manipulate and redefine the HTML language, define its own attributes, we will be able to define our own attributes as well. So we want to notify the controller and say that we are logging in, okay, and we want to pass some username and password, right, to the user, to the controller. But first, let's make sure that we can hit that login function on the controller. So to do that, if you remember from last week or the week before, to be able to bind or tie the HTML with the controller, we use the $scope. Yes? Right. And the $scope allows the controller and the view to be able to swap data information, right, and behavior as well. So we can declare a login function on the here on the controller, and it's going to be invoked from the login from the template. Yes. So here we're going to just say console log, and then say login clicked. Everybody okay? All right, so let's refresh, and let's go to the console, and we click on login. It's not working. Wait, what? Why is this not working? Oh, because we have the href, right? We have the href, and it actually wants to navigate to that other page. So let's remove that. We don't want that. Okay, we want to just invoke the function. So let's refresh. Let's click on the login, and indeed, login clicked is being invoked, right? So we're hitting that line 8. Everybody okay? All right? Okay. All right, we want to pass some information along. We want to pass information in this input field and that other input field. And we did look at that we can declare variables, local variables, by using the ng model attribute and say that this is a username, right? And this is a password, ng model password. And then you can then refer to those variables locally from the template and pass them along using an object-oriented functional paradigm, right? We can pass in here the username and the password. We can then here receive that username and that password. Oops, and then maybe perhaps display here the username and the password. All right, so let's try it. We refresh and go to the console, and we type whatever username and password. Notice that indeed the controller is receiving the data. Yes? Make sense? All right. So we had given you some dummy data, right, in assignment number 3, and we can use that just to try out what the logic should be for verifying whether this user exists or not. And let's see. So we had some user information here. So let's grab the array of these users, and we can declare them locally here somewhere in a variable users. Right? And the login would be the logic of the login function would be to, given the username and password you've given me, we would either accept it or not. right? And we can just simply look for that just by iterating over the user, right? Now those folks from Java would expect that this variable u might be bound to each of the instances and the objects in the array, right? So u is first bound to this object, then bound to this other object, then bound to that other object. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in JavaScript. U is just an index, right? The index 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, right? So if you want to retrieve the actual object var user, you need to do user sub u, unfortunately, right? U is just an index. So the logic here might be that if user sub username is equal to username and user.password is equal to password, then we have found it, right? We found the user. The user is a valid user, and then we can notify the login page that we have successfully logged you in, right? Yes, you are in the system, or no, you're not in the system. Okay. So here we can say maybe we can have a variable, and we can say var found as false, and if we find the user, we can say found equal true as a flag, and then we can say if found, then we can maybe notify the user somehow, right? So we can say scope message. We can say welcome, right? Welcome plus username, or we can say else. We can send the scope message. Message. We say username. Username not found. Okay, so please try again, or something like that, right? Something like that, and then we can display the message somewhere here, something like message. Okay, everybody okay? All right. So let's try that. See if that works. We can refresh this, and if we have some bogus values, we can say login. It says username yada yada not found. Please try again. Maybe we want to put this in its own div with some bootstrap painted class or something. There's some alerts in Bootstrap that you might want to take a look at to display messages. Here's one of them. Right. This is this kind of placeholder for a message, and if it doesn't match, we get user not found. But if we have Alice and Alice, it says welcome Alice. Yes, right. This kind of looks ugly that it's showing all the time, right? So there are a couple of Angular attributes that allow you to show or hide content depending on some logic. ng show, for instance, allow you to either show or hide the content if what's inside of this quote refers to something that is not falsy. So in JavaScript, we have terminology such as falsy or truthy. No political references. So if something in here, right, is truthy, meaning that it's not zero, it's not false, it's not empty string, it's not null, it's not undefined, right? If it's none of those, then it's truthy, right? So something that either has a value different than zero, or has an object with an attribute, or an array with length different than zero, and so on and so forth. If that's true, then this is truthy, and this will show. Yes? So when do we want to show it? If message is truthy. Meaning if it's not undefined, it's not false, it's not the empty string. Right? So if we refresh, currently the message is empty string. Right? There's nothing there, or it's null at least, or it's undefined. But if it has an actual value, now it's undefined or false, or has a message, actually, it displays. Everybody okay? Yes? All right. And Alice works too. Okay, welcome Alice. And there they have it, right? So we have the console, and we have being able to identify whether this person exists or not. What we really want to be able to do is navigate to the profile page or the what is it, the website list, right? The website list page. And for navigation, we'll need to introduce routing and whatnot. We'll do that next week. All right? I mean tomorrow. Thank you.